This is the post for Saturday, the 27th of June. There's an impression out there, and I'll tell you how I know about it in a minute. There's an impression out there that next Saturday, the 4th of July, this situation is going to magically change and all restrictions are going to be lifted. And that's because apparently Governor Holcomb, in his laying out of stages and phases and that sort of thing of reopening Indiana, has said that as of the 4th of July, everything is okay. I know that because I've had lots of brides call who have weddings scheduled in Illinois and they don't want to observe the face mask requirements and social distancing and capacity limits that the Archdiocese of Chicago has in place for weddings in the parishes of the Archdiocese. Our policies are the same. Nothing is changing next Saturday in terms of our requirements for face masks, social distancing, and capacity limits. Those are public health measures deemed, if not essential, certainly very crucial in limiting the rates of infection and hospitalization and so on, and trying to keep a lid of some sort on this viral disease, which is not subject to our policies and rules and wishes and economic goals and political opinions and that sort of thing. It's a disease, it's a sickness, it causes death, and it harms people. And the requirements of masks and social distancing and capacity limits, as I've said repeatedly, are about our obligation to love our neighbor as ourselves. They're not about our rights and so on. Those are false arguments. I know zillions of people are making them, but those are false arguments that come from someplace else. They don't come from any real considered situation as a citizen or as a Christian or as a Catholic. So I know that this is very stressful. Believe me, I am very much aware of the stress that this whole situation is putting on all of us. But we can't, we can do whatever we want. And of course, we've seen the consequences of that across many states in our country where they did whatever they wanted, and now we're suffering the consequences of that. In my own thinking, and I hope I'm very wrong and you can laugh at me and say I'm a fool, my own thinking is that we're going to, just about the time that the kids will go back to school, we'll begin to see, perhaps not in each individual school district, but certainly in the wider community, we'll begin to see spikes in the numbers of infected people. We'll begin to see spikes in the terms of hospital admissions, and we'll begin to see spikes, tragically, in the number of deaths. And then that will create more havoc and do more harm to all of us, but especially our children who are being put through really, really tough times. It requires wisdom, I think, on the part of adults to try and not deny the reality of the virus. I mean, that's not a fantasy, despite efforts to make it a fantasy. That too comes out of someplace else in us. It doesn't come out of our, best and most sensitive role as a citizen or a Christian or a Catholic. That notion that we're dealing with some kind of conspiracy is part of other sicknesses that float around in our hearts and minds. But we need to try and pull ourselves together so that we can offer a framework of meaning that it remains to be seen for our children of all ages. I mean, I continue to feel bad for the adolescents, the young college kids who have so much to live at their age and can't live it very freely or very safely or very well or very confidently, and they certainly can't live it very well in public, as we were able to do. So we are working on what our CFP program will look like next year, but we can't make too many decisions until we see what the Munster schools and the Lake Central schools are going to do, because we certainly can't undermine their efforts in terms of our protocols for being present safely. And they're on uncharted territory too. They've never had to deal with things like this. So we really need patience and wisdom for our own sakes and our own well-being, but most especially for those who are going to come after us, because we don't want to leave a field of desolation in the wake of this terrible affliction. We want to leave wise and serene and calm and humanizing experiences and artifacts of our presence, having been here in this pandemic of 2020 and more than likely beyond. Peace be with you.